I noticed that whenever I do anything sort of IT related, there's always lots of great comments because clearly lots of you really understand this a lot more than I do. So what I'm very interested to find out is there's a new AI action plan for the justice system. So I thought I'd give you an overview of what the government are trying to do, and I'd be very interested to hear your thoughts on some of these implications. So first of all, just to give you the basics, this is called the AI Action Plan for Justice, a first of its kind document outlining how we, as in the government, will harness the power of AI to transform the public's experience, making their interactions with the justice system simpler, faster and more tailored to their needs. I'm reading the sort of government bump that they've all put out, and I'll link to it in the description because it's quite lengthy and detailed, and it's got lots of words and phrases in I don't understand. It's all a bit sort of... It's like being on LinkedIn. It's like you have to Google all these phrases. But they've got three priorities. Strengthening our foundations, embedding AI across justice services, and investing in the people who will deliver this transformation. It's also confusing because every time I say AI, I think it says AL. So I'm just sort of like, well, you can't leave it all to me to sort out. But what they're looking at, well, they're going to enhance AI leadership, governance, ethics, data, digital infrastructure and commercial frameworks. And they're going to set up a dedicated justice AI unit led by our chief AI officer to coordinate all this, with critical input from our data science, digital and transformation teams. A cross-departmental AI steering group provides oversight, and an AI and data ethics framework and communications plan will promote transparency and engagement. So it's all about you, the public, knowing what's going on, which is presumably why it's tucked away on a government website somewhere, and you having to rely on some idiot like me to read it to you. Embed AI across the justice system. What does this mean? Well, they'll deliver more effective services across citizen-facing, operational, I thought we were subjects, and enabling functions alike by applying, quotes, a scan, pilot, scale, unquotes, approach. And they'll target high-impact use cases. So what does all that mean? Well, examples. Reducing administrative burden with secure AI productivity tools, including search, speech and document processing, e.g. transcription tools that will allow probation officers to focus on higher value work. Now it's very interesting because reading into this, they are going to look at using more sort of AI transcription services. So, it just records a meeting, like a probation meeting, and then produces the transcript. And a lot of you have commented, quite rightly I think, on the cost of getting transcripts from trials. There's that new scheme that victims of SUL offending should be allowed access to transcripts for free. But generally speaking, they're very expensive because the way it works, just in case you're not sure, they have tape recorders in courts, in some courts, if they're at a court of a record. Like, for instance, magistrates' courts, technically they're not courts of record, they're just creatures of statute. And if you want to sort of like appeal a magistrates court decision by what we call case stated, by means of case stated, in other words, you've made a decision, we think it's wrong. So this isn't just like the usual, I didn't like the result, I'm going to go to the Crown Court to appeal it. This is, you got something wrong legally, so we're going to take it to the administrative court. Well, what you actually have to do is get the magistrates to write out, their reasons for doing so. And sometimes they'll just refuse and say no, and then you have to go off for another application to the court and say their decision not to, write down their reasons is challengeable. Okay, we agree. Yes, write down your reasons. Then you go off and challenge separately. But when it comes to stuff like Crown Court trials, if you want a transcript, you identify one of the many companies that actually do this. It's all done on a commercial basis. There are certain companies that are licensed to do it. You say what you want transcribing, which is why when you're in court, it's always a good idea to be making a note of things of like, oh, the judge said this, and make a note of exactly what time they made it. Because that way you can say, I just want the 10 minutes of transcript from here to there. Because obviously that keeps it down rather than saying, well, I'm not quite sure, so transcribe everything, which could run into tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds, and I'll read through it. But if this does work and it's shown to be quite accurate, because what they'll do is the tapes get sent to the transcribing service, they transcribe them, and then they send them to you. And theoretically, if they're not sure, if there's an ambiguity, you can go back to the judge and say, please approve these. Does this tally with your record? I mean, the other way we used to do it is we just get the pupils to write everything out. Or I started out, when I was at law school, outdoor clerking for solicitors, because in those days the Legal Aid Board would pay a pittance for people to sit behind counsel and just assist and make a note. And one of my jobs was making a contemporaneous, as near to verbatim note. And then if there was an issue, the judge would say, well, you've got somebody sat behind you, what do they say was said? If it's, that was never put, yes it was. Or you're making a closing speech and saying, you'll recall that in evidence somebody said such and such. They go, no, we didn't. And it's like, okay, get the notes out. And in all fairness, usually if your notes are quite accurate, the judge will say, yeah, no reason to doubt those. But like I say, if you want an official transcript, you have to go off and pay a fortune. So the idea is, it does seem to me that if this works and it is shown that this system does produce accurate notes, I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be extended to like just regular trials. The other thing they want to do is increase capacity through better scheduling, such as prison capacity. Not sure what AI is going to do there. It's like, hey, Grok, how many people are in the prison estate at the moment? Bing, too many. Improve access to justice with citizen-facing assistance. Now, when they say assistants, do they mean humans or do they mean bots? And we'll come on to that, because it does seem a lot of the time they actually mean bots. Enabling personalised education and rehabilitation. In other words, tailored training for our workforce and offenders. So get AI to decide, what do you do with this miscreant? What's the best way of making sure we rehabilitate them? And supporting better decisions through predictive and risk assessment models, ED, predicting the risk of violence in custody. Because this is actually something that crops up a lot, and I am intending to do a video on dangerousness, because there's a controversial case recently where somebody clearly was a wrong-un and used some sharpened implements on people. And the issue was whether the judge could impose an extended sentence, and they can only do that if they are found to be dangerous, if the person is deemed to be dangerous. Well, clearly it's somebody who goes around stabbing people. I think there's a strong argument they're dangerous, but are they dangerous within how the law describes it? And I'll do a separate video on that, because it's quite a fascinating topic and a bit counterintuitive, because it's one of these where the law doesn't use the word in the same way that regular people would. And 3, invest in our people and partners. We will invest in talent training and a proactive workforce planning to accelerate AI adoption and transform how we work. We are ready to deliver. AI rollout is already underway with encouraging early results. Initial funding is secured. I can't find out how much though. With additional backing anticipated as we demonstrate impact. As AI technologies mature, we will refine our approach and plan based on real-world outcomes, evaluation and feedback from staff, trade unions, partners and the public. So there you go, have your say. We are committed to acting boldly, learning rapidly and ensuring AI adoption delivers real improvements. So there you go. So here's their games. The opportunity. Free up professional time by automating routine tasks and paperwork, allowing staff to focus on meaningful interactions and deliver justice with greater empathy and care. In other words, if you ring a court up, they might actually be able to speak to you because they won't be busy just trying to sort out all your terrible paperwork that you've just dropped off your Morrison's carrier bag going, there's all my papers. Increase system capacity through smarter scheduling of people, spaces and resources to support prison capacity planning and court backlog reduction. I mean, that does seem to be saying they're going to sort of get the AI to schedule things and go, looks like this guy's going to go to prison, but we don't have any prison spaces till August, so we need to find him a time that if he's convicted, and it looks like he will be, we need to find somewhere that can take him for the next 18 months. Enable a more personalised and preventive justice system by supporting tailored rehabilitation plans or personalising victim services. Enable more equitable legal pathways through citizen-facing AI tools that help people navigate legal processes, resolve disputes without going to court or tribunal, or claim compensation for criminal injuries. So there you go. So when it's saying customer-facing, basically you will be dealing with a chatbot. So it's like, right, I've been injured, how do I claim criminal injuries compensation? And theoretically we'll talk you through it. Support economic growth by supporting the UK's world-leading and low-tech sectors, so in other words, contracts for all their friends. Build system resilience by helping justice agencies, regulators and wider stakeholders respond to emerging threats such as AI-enabled criminality. So there you go. I mean, we've all seen the Forbin project. I mean, it's not like sci-fi films haven't been warning about this for years. I mean, if you are going to sort of introduce some like self-aware sort of sentient supercomputer AI, I suggest that basically it's powered by a really long Black & Decker extension lead, and you just have a pair of shears next to it. Because otherwise it all goes a bit Terminator. And sort of basically they just go through and just ramble about how brilliant it's going to be, how they're going to embed it across the system. But their other aims are they want to put safety and fairness first. AI and justice must work within the law, protect individual rights and maintain public trust. This requires rigorous testing, clear accountability and careful oversight, especially where decisions affect liberty, safety or individual rights. So there you go. I mean, some of these may be making decisions that have an actual effect on, your personal liberty, whether you go to prison or not, or something like that. However, they're saying they need to protect independence. AI should support, not substitute, human judgment. We will preserve the independence of judges, prosecutors and oversight bodies, ensuring AI works within the law and reinforces public confidence. So there you go. So the idea is the ultimate decisions should be taken by regular, humans. Because, these are very important. It could, do you go to prison? Do you lose your house? Do you lose your children? Are you allowed to do, whatever at work? If you're doing an employment tribunal or something like that. I mean, I have seen people say that, the Master of Role suggested that for sort of small claims that they should all be at least sifted by AI, even if not decided by AI. And I mentioned before, there was that rather weird thing that they said where, people with like small value claims, they're not really bothered about whether the result's fair or not. They just want it dealing with quickly and cheaply. And to me, that's just because, people go to litigation because things are important to them. I mean, yeah, okay, you get vexatious litigants and things, people like that, but that can all be dealt with and there are mechanisms. But I think, in my experience, it doesn't matter, the value of the claim. People quite rightly go, well, this is important to me and I want the right result. I don't want it quick and cheap. I want it correct. So they're going to say they'll start with the people who use the system. We will design AI tools around the needs of users. For example, victims, offenders, staff, judges and citizens. That means solving real problems, co-developing solutions with users and localising services to reflect the diverse realities of justice. I mean, sometimes you just think they've sat there with a thesaurus. Or it looks like, almost, hey Grok, draft me a press release about this fantastic AI system that we're going to use. The action plan builds on the excellent work produced by government teams and partners in recent years. Okay, excellent work, like the single justice procedure, the not digital case management system, but the My Justice one, the one I just did the previous video about, how that was wrong for years. I mean, the thing I forgot to mention in that video is, when this all came to light, the powers that be did not inform the judges or anybody. They just kept it to themselves because they said to actually alert people to this issue would undermine confidence in the justice system. So they didn't even think they didn't even tell the judges that this system wasn't working. So was that to inspire confidence, or was that just to cover up? I mean, when they talk about all this transparency and how it's going to be great going forward, I mean, without sounding too skeptical or cynical, based on past performance, I think a little bit of expectation management is needed. I mean, I would say fix the initial problems before we go on to something else. There's some sort of foundational things here. If the existing systems, which are a lot simpler, if they can't get the papers to court, or they can't update the system so people don't know what's going on, or evidence goes missing, or with a single justice procedure, mitigation or defences aren't being placed before either the judge or even the prosecutor. I mean, like I say, I don't want to sound like a Luddite, although I used to wear clogs being a Bradford boy. The origin of the word sabotage, because, sabo, clogs, throw them in the machine to break them, sabotage. So I don't want to sound too cynical about this, but it does concern me slightly that perhaps we're just moving a little bit quickly. However, like I say, I'll be interested in your comments. You might all go, no, this is all fine, you should. Because I did use AI. I've used AI a little bit recently. I used it to diagnose a fault on a Range Rover. And it was interesting because it obviously trolled all the sort of Range Rover discussions, because the first suggestion that came up was just leave it for a bit and see if it fixes itself, which is the standard dealing with Land Rover advice. But it did give me a sort of a diagnostic tool, but it also hallucinated a fuse that just didn't exist in a part of the vehicle that, you know, it wouldn't have been there. It's like, you'll need to check fuse such and such, which is located in the rear panel in the boot. And it's like, no, it's not. There's nothing there. And if I start digging there, I'll just dig into the fuel tank. But there you go. So, like I said, I'll link to the full description, this full paper in the comments, because it's quite a deep dive. But, you know, my initial concerns are, it does seem that it's going to be justice by chatbot. I mean, they're saying, yes, we need to make sure the data's right. And they've addressed the stuff about, you know, garbage in, garbage out, and that's why they're making sure that they've sanitized all their inputs and things like that. But I'm just not so sure at this stage. However, come on, Al, it is the 21st century now. Where's our jetpacks? They also want to address the financial and commercial barriers to procuring AI capabilities. So they're just basically saying it will need some money throwing at it. Because the other thing is, that with the digitalisation of justice, I mean, what if people don't have access to this? What if people don't have access to computers? I mean, yes, they can go down the local library and do things, but that means they're putting potentially very sensitive information onto computers that anybody can use just by, I can't remember what I'm not even sure about. No, actually, our local library doesn't even charge to use the computers. They just charge to print things. But like they say, be very careful about, you know, leaving personal information on there. But it's on there, isn't it? So yeah, yes, you can click delete and hope that it hasn't memorized it. But the next person coming along just to sit down and say, oh, just need to check when the bins get emptied, and all of a sudden, all your case about your, you know, secret family law, you know, proceedings are all then in there for anybody to read. There's a few case studies they've put in there, sort of, you know, examples and things. I mean, one thing they're saying is to use AI for searching for materials. Because at the moment, you've probably seen where it's transpired that somebody had like loads of previous convictions that, you know, didn't come to light. I mean, one thing I'm slightly concerned about is they're saying about having a sort of building up profiles on everybody by getting as much information as possible. So whether you're, you know, theoretically it's aimed at defendants and convicted people, so they can do all their rehabilitation and probation management and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But we've seen that they're effectively just gathering information on everybody. So the idea is that this system would go off and trawl and sort of go, oh, here's a bit of information about somebody, here's a bit of information about somebody, but how accurate is that going to be? I mean, what if you've got a very common name? You know, is it going to mix you up? You know, if there's probably quite a lot of John Smiths living around. I mean, luckily there aren't too many Alan Robertshaws. I mean, I remember when I was a kid though, because Robertshaw's quite a popular name in the West Riding, so there are a few of us. If you're reading Telegraph and Argus going, that wasn't me! So yeah, I mean, again, another slight sort of concern there. One thing to say about just assisting for filling out documents. I mean, I have to say that's something that's probably quite useful. I'm just doing a little bit of conveyancing among other things today. I struggle with conveyancing, not least I don't know how to spell it. Is it conveyancing or conveyancing? I think it's ansing. Also, why is it conveyancing? You don't say surveyancing, do you? You just say surveying. So why is it just conveying? Because that's the, you know, I will convey this to you. So I'm not sure why it's called conveyancing. But there you go. But the land registry forms are notoriously difficult to fill in. I've done like webinars with them and they're really sweet and they'll literally talk you down from the tower and take you all through it. But even after they explained everything to it, it's still incredibly complicated. But yeah, you do have a little chance to have your say on this. They always say, we welcome feedback and we welcome, you know, input from, you know, our consumers. Because you are ultimately the consumers of the criminal justice system, I suppose. Sorry, and just the justice system generally. So there you go. So hope you found that vaguely informative, vaguely useful, vaguely accurate. I mean, like I say, I was pretty much just reading from the document just to give you the highlights because it's very detailed. But like I say, the real reason I want to do this is an area that I struggle with, and maybe I'm just showing my age or a bit long in the tooth. So I'd be very, very interested. Because I know I see all sorts of comments going, oh, just let AI decide everything. It's neutral and unbiased, and you know isn't subject to human whims and foibles. I mean, I'm not sure about that because I think it inherits all those whims and foibles just by the way it data scrapes. But let's hear what you have to say. So while we're doing that, I'll just move to get my thumbnail picture. serious face, computer face. Sit on the left and you'll be right. Hang on, because it's really confusing because the screen I'm looking at, it's like a mirror image. So that would mean I'll be on that side, which I think is right. I will just do one over here just in case. But now the boys are annoyed because I'm blocking them. For new viewers, just in case you don't know, that's Cappy Barrister. He's not wearing his wig and gown at the moment, although he's still got his little bands on. I made those. I actually made his little wig as well. That's Lord Loverduck, and that's Sexton Drake. So I'm sure they're all very pleased to meet you.